before we start the segment, I do want to make something pretty clear. I want to make it explicitly clear. I like Mac Jones. I do. I like him as a person. I like him as a personality. I like him as a quarterback. I like him as an athlete. I like Mac Jones. I saw enough in the year that I've been watching him as a starter at Alabama to say, I see it. I see the potential in Mac Jones. I see him being a franchise starting level caliber quarterback. I can see that. The numbers will say, well, for every guy that you say that about him being a franchise or starting level quarterback, about 60%, 60 to 70% of those guys end up busting out. But stats be damned. I like Mac Jones, and I think that he can be a very solid quarterback in the NFL. And with that being said, ever since the 49ers moved up from 12 to number 3, and in case you've been living under a rock, the 49ers traded a couple of first-round picks, a third-round pick, to the Miami Dolphins to move up from 12 to 3. The Dolphins then turned that into trading with the Philadelphia Eagles, moving from 12 to 6, and the Eagles back from 6 to 12. In case you've been living under a rock. And ever since that trade, the sports media revolving around the NFL has been fixated on what the San Francisco 49ers are going to do with that number 3 selection in this year's draft. And everybody can mostly mutually agree that the 49ers are going to be taking a quarterback. You don't waste all that draft capital to go and take an offensive tackle or a wide receiver. It just doesn't happen, and it would be plain stupid. Mostly everybody can agree on that, but where people tend to disagree is on who they are going to be taking at quarterback with that selection. And with the amount of quarterbacks that have been either mocked to be drafted in this slot or projected to be taken in the first round in a year in which a lot of teams probably could end up taking or using a quarterback, there's a lot of disagreement here. And the one name predominantly that I've been saying being taken by the 49ers in that number 3 draft slot is Mac Jones. Now, if you watched my take on the draft trade when it actually happened, I said that Mac Jones was probably the first name that I would scribble out of the conversation when it comes to who the 49ers should or will draft in that number 3 draft selection. So I've been seeing a whole bunch of Mac Jones to San Francisco, Mac Jones to San Francisco, Mac Jones to San Francisco. It could happen. It will happen. It should happen. And I'm just sitting here saying, I like Mac Jones. I mean, I dedicated the first 30 seconds of this segment to tell you how much I like Mac Jones as a quarterback prospect. I like Mac Jones, just not enough to draft him in that number 3 draft selection. I think if the 49ers ended up drafting Mac Jones in that draft slot, it would be a tremendous oversight and a tremendous misevaluation of talent by the San Francisco 49ers. And the reason being is that I think that Jimmy Garoppolo can do everything that Mac Jones can apart from staying healthy. And sure, the best ability is availability, but who's to say that Mac Jones doesn't get into action and gets hurt immediately as well? Injuries in the NFL, especially in the NFL, but really much in every sport, you walk out on the field every single day with, I would say, a 50-50 chance of getting injured in some way. You know, injuries happen with the NFL more than any other sport, I would argue. And I'm taking a look at Mac Jones' skill set. He's a pocket passer. He's got really good game IQ, good short to medium length passer. He can really sling it at medium range when he needs to. He misses some long range throws from time to time. But I think if he were in an offense with George Kittle, I can see what people are seeing. He's got that good medium range accuracy. He can miss some long throws, but he's predominantly a game manager pocket passer who can sling it in short and medium situations and sometimes hit the home run when he needs to. I think the wide receivers that he had at Alabama definitely made Mac Jones look a little bit better than he actually is. I will make that critique. But I'm taking a look at that and I'm saying Jimmy Garoppolo can do almost all of that as well. So if you're going to be drafting somebody with a number 3 overall draft selection, if you're Kyle Shanahan, you need to have somebody that is more unique than Mac Jones is. It's not the fact that I don't like Mac Jones. Again, I've made it explicitly clear a couple times on the segment. I like Mac Jones. But if you're going to draft somebody at number 3 overall to replace Jimmy Garoppolo and immediately place him on a contending team, you need to have a quarterback that has just a little bit more than ordinary. And Mac Jones is more on the side of ordinary than I think I would probably like. So I would take Justin Fields or Trey Lance over Mac Jones. again, it's not that I don't like Mac Jones. I think I just see more of the ordinary in Mac Jones than I do in any of the other quarterbacks that have been slotted or mocked to be drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in this situation. And Kyle Shanahan is such a brilliant offensive mind, a brilliant play caller. I just don't think, and my logic would point me to the theory that I don't think that Mac Jones and Kyle Shanahan would necessarily be the best potential or have the highest ceiling together. I see more potential in the combination with Trey Lance, and I see more potential in the combination between Justin Fields and Kyle Shanahan. Justin Fields has shown an incredible ability to play through injuries. People forget how Justin Fields was playing through not only the college football playoff game, but the entirety of the national championship game injured. And he definitely looked injured, but for more or less, he looked pretty good. Justin Fields can play through injury. He's got mobile legs. He's got a strong arm. He's got a good mentality. For the longest time, he was considered to be, quote-unquote, Trevor Lawrence's backup. I guess QB1 and QB2, but very, very close together. And Trey Lance, who's been at North Dakota State, he only played one game this year, a bit of a mixed bag, but he played an entire year last year. And he looked good. He looked really good. He's going to need a year to develop. I would probably draft Justin Fields over Trey Lance if I'm San Francisco. But I can definitely see with an offensive mind like Kyle Shanahan, with an athlete like Trey Lance, how that offense can turn into something extremely scary down the road. And whereas I see the offense being unique and scary in San Francisco with Justin Fields and Trey Lance, I see it being ordinary with Mac Jones. And again, for probably the fourth or fifth time during this segment, I like Mac Jones. I just don't think he's the right fit for San Francisco. So if Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers draft Mac Jones in that draft selection, or that draft slot, they must either see something in Mac Jones that we, the common media, do not see, or it's a gross misevaluation of talent, and it's going to be a bad pick. And that's kind of my reaction and what my thinking has been when I've been seeing plastered all over my ESPN app and all over YouTube recently and all over the sports debate shows, Mac Jones to 49ers, Mac Jones to 49ers. I'm still sitting here at my desk, having watched a bunch of Justin Fields, a bunch of Mac Jones, and a little bit of Trey Lance film since he didn't play last season because North Dakota State shut down the season last season. Watching the game film on all of them, don't get me wrong, Mac Jones had a tremendous season and he was impressive, and I've seen enough potential in him to say, yes, that could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But as I've been saying, Mac Jones borders more on the line of ordinary than extraordinary. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a great quarterback, just doesn't mean he's going to be unique. And I think that Kyle Shanahan can do more with a unique quarterback. He's already a brilliant offensive mind. It's going to be extremely interesting to see what he can do with Justin Fields or Trey Lance if they decide to draft him in that draft slot. Now, I guess the elephant in the room is that they would really like Zach Wilson, but the more and more I think about it, the more I think, look, if the San Francisco 49ers could only trade up to 3, they have to have asked the Jets for their number 2 draft selection, right? They have to. They have to have. So I would border on the side of the Jets taking Zach Wilson with the other 2, so that means Fields or Lance, and I guess Mac Jones, if you're the media at large. I just don't see it. As much as I like Mac Jones, I just don't see it. So let me know what you think. Are the 49ers really going to take a shot at Mac Jones with the number 3 overall draft selection in this year's NFL draft, or do they go after one of the other quarterbacks available? Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch, and if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.